Landscaping might be the single most confusing industry for Texas sales tax. Get the rules wrong, and you create a financial disaster. Today, we are answering the 8 most frequently asked questions from landscape contractors, so you can keep your hard-earned money. Why is this industry so confusing? Because you don't just do one thing. You plant trees, you build retaining walls, you repair irrigation systems, and to an auditor, those aren't just services. They are different tax classifications: real property services, new construction, residential repair, and commercial repair. Each one carries a different tax treatment. And sometimes, more than one applies on the same invoice, and that's where audits get expensive. Before we get started, a quick introduction. We're Brown Goertz Co, a state tax advisory firm that represents businesses in Texas sales and use tax audits. We help business owners navigate the complex rules of the Comptroller's office to ensure they only pay what they truly owe, and not a penny more. All right, let's take the first question.
FAQ number 1. What's the difference between landscaping and hardscaping?
Landscaping is arranging or modifying land for aesthetic purposes. That includes planting trees and shrubs, installing sod, spreading mulch or decorative rock, grading for appearance, mowing, edging, and general lawn maintenance. Hardscaping involves building or installing permanent structural improvements to real property. That can include things like irrigation systems, landscape lighting, patios, walkways, retaining walls, outdoor kitchens, pergolas, and built-in fire pits. In short, landscaping is primarily about plant material and surface-level aesthetic work. Hardscaping involves constructed structural improvements that become part of the real property. They are treated differently under Texas sales tax rules. Landscaping is governed by the Real Property Services Rule, and hardscaping can fall under either the Contractor Rule or the Non-Residential Real Property Repair Rule.
FAQ number 2. Should I charge sales tax on landscaping and lawn maintenance?
Yes. In Texas, landscaping and lawn maintenance are taxable services. If the work falls under the landscaping definitions we just discussed, meaning it improves or maintains the appearance of real property, you collect sales tax on the total amount you bill your customer.
FAQ number 3. How do I tax the work that I do that is hardscape?
As we've discussed, hardscape work is treated as real property improvement under Texas sales tax rules. That means the tax treatment depends on how the job is structured. If you are billing your customer lump sum, you are the consumer of the materials. You pay sales tax when you purchase the materials that go into the project, and you do not separately charge sales tax to your customer. If you are separating materials and labor when billing your customer, the treatment can change depending on the type of project and whether it is residential or commercial. The key concept is this: hardscape work falls under real property improvement rules, not taxable landscaping service rules. The way you structure your contract or your quote, lump sum versus separated, directly affects how tax is handled. And if you're performing multiple types of work on the same project, you need to be very clear in your invoicing about what portion is landscaping and what portion is hardscape. Classification and contract structure drive the tax treatment.
FAQ number 4. What does lump sum versus separated actually look like on an invoice?
When we talk about lump sum versus separated, we are talking about how your invoice is written. A lump sum invoice is one total price for the job. For example, backyard patio and irrigation system, $25,000. There is one total amount. Materials and labor are not broken out with separate dollar amounts. A separated invoice is different. Materials and labor must be separately stated, and each must have a dollar amount assigned to it. For example, materials, $15,000, and labor, $10,000. Both categories must have their own dollar amounts. If you intend for your billing to be separated, you cannot have one lump sum total and then simply list materials and labor without pricing them separately. If there are no separate dollar amounts attached to materials and labor, it is not considered separated for tax purposes. That distinction matters because lump sum and separated contracts are taxed differently under Texas sales tax rules. Before we go to the next question, I'd like to offer a quick clarification. I've used the words contract, quote, and invoice somewhat interchangeably in this video, but they are not equal from a legal standpoint. There's a hierarchy of documents that governs the tax treatment. A signed contract takes precedence over a quote, which takes precedence over an invoice. So while your invoice format matters, it does not override a written contract or quote that says something different. The tax treatment follows the governing agreement, not just how the invoice happens to be formatted.
FAQ number 5. How do I tax my customer if I'm repairing an irrigation or sprinkler system?
As mentioned before, irrigation and sprinkler systems are real property. When you're repairing real property, there are two things that determine how you tax your customer. First, is the property residential or commercial? Second, are you billing your customer lump sum or separated? Let's start with residential repair and remodel. If you are repairing residential real property and you bill your customer separated, meaning you separately state materials and labor, the materials are taxable to the customer, but the labor is not. If you are billing residential repair lump sum, meaning you do not separately state materials and labor, then the entire charge to the customer is not taxable, and as the consumer of the materials, you pay tax when you purchase them. Now let's look at commercial repair and remodel. For commercial real property repair work, the total charge is taxable, labor and materials, regardless of whether you bill lump sum or separated. So the controlling factors are residential versus commercial, lump sum versus separated, and your invoice needs to clearly reflect both. If your records do not clearly show what type of property it was and how the job was billed, the auditor may default to assessing you tax on the sale to the customer.
FAQ number 6. What if I already paid sales tax to my vendors when I bought the materials? Can I just not charge my customer tax? After all, the state is getting their money either way.
No, paying tax to your vendor does not automatically determine whether you should collect tax from your customer. The tax treatment depends on the type of work you are performing: landscaping, real property improvement, residential repair, commercial repair, and how your contract is structured. There are situations where you are the consumer of the materials and you pay tax when purchasing them. There are other situations where you are reselling materials as part of a taxable service and you must collect tax from your customer. Simply paying tax at the point of purchase does not replace your obligation to collect tax when required. The classification of the job drives the tax treatment, not the fact that you paid tax to your supplier.
FAQ number 7. I do a lot of work for new home builders and I heard that I'm not supposed to charge tax on these jobs. Is that true?
If you are performing landscaping for a home builder on a brand new residential home and you are billing the builder lump sum, do not charge sales tax to the home builder. Take note though, you must have documentation. You do not need a resale or special exemption certificate. What you need is a letter from the home builder stating that the specific address is new residential construction. That's it. A simple letter from the home builder confirming that the address is a new home construction is sufficient to support this treatment in an audit. Because the home builder is not responsible for paying sales tax on this new residential construction job, you, as the contractor, are responsible for paying sales tax when you purchase the materials. That includes trees, flowers, bushes, mulch, rock, everything that becomes part of the landscaping. Under a lump sum contract for new residential construction, you are the consumer of the materials, so you pay tax when you purchase the materials and you do not charge tax to the builder. If you are audited, the auditor is going to look for two things: proof that the address was new residential construction, proof that you paid tax on the materials. If you have both, you're in good shape. If you don't, that's where assessments happen.
FAQ number 8. What records do I need to keep in case I'm audited?
If you're a landscape contractor, you should assume you will be audited at some point. So the better question is, what do you need to have ready? First, make sure you have contracts and subcontracts for your construction jobs. The contracts control the tax treatment. If it's lump sum or separated, if it's new construction or repair, that needs to be clear in writing. Second, you need complete sales invoices. Your sales invoices should clearly reflect what type of work was performed. If landscaping and hardscaping are on the same job, they should be clearly identified. If you're billing separated, materials and labor must have their own dollar amounts. Third, you need documentation showing whether the property was residential or commercial. Make sure all sales invoices, quotes, or estimates and contracts clearly state the job address. Auditors will not guess. If your records aren't clear, the auditor will default to assessing you tax on the sale. Fourth, if it's new residential construction, you need that builder letter confirming the address was new construction. Fifth, You'll need to provide resale and exemption certificates when they apply. If you performed commercial remodel work for a general contractor and did not charge tax, you should have a resale certificate on file. If you performed work for an exempt organization, like a nonprofit, school, or religious organization, you must have a valid exemption certificate supporting why tax was not collected. And finally, you need proof that you paid sales tax on your purchases. That includes not only materials that go into customer jobs, but it also includes everything else your business buys, like office supplies, equipment, auto repairs, and tools. And if a purchase relates to a specific job, the invoice or receipt should clearly show the job address or some type of job identifier so it can be tied back to that project. As we wrap up this video, I want to emphasize that landscape contractors operate in one of the most layered areas of Texas sales tax. If you've made it this far, you can see how quickly the rules shift depending on classification, contract structure, and documentation. If you have questions that we didn't cover in this video, put them in the comments. We review and respond to comments regularly, and if there's enough interest around a specific issue, we'll create another FAQ video that dives deeper into that topic. The goal here is clarity before an audit, not confusion during one. If you found this video helpful, subscribe for more industry-specific guidance on Texas sales and use tax. At Brown Goertz Co, we represent businesses in Texas sales and use tax audits with the Comptroller's office. If you are currently under audit, disagree with an assessment, or want to make sure your processes would hold up in the next audit cycle, we're here to help. Our contact info is in the description box below, because in this area of tax law, classification, and documentation matter, and getting it right now is always less expensive than fixing it later. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.